From November 24th until November 26th, and from December 1st to December 3rd, Hisuian Samurott is coming to 7-star raids with Tera Water. Hisuian Samurott is finally making its debut in 7-star raids, which means this is the last of the Hisuian starters to finally come about and be catchable in Paldea. Otherwise, you'd have to get one from Legends Arceus. Now, Hisuian Samurott, as far as its stats go, has 90 HP, 108 attack, 80 defense, 100 special attack, 65 special defense, and 85 speed. Technically speaking, Hisuian Samurott does have the stats to be a mixed attacker, but its hidden ability is Sharpness. Sharpness increases the power of slicing moves by 50%, and to my general knowledge, I'm pretty sure there's more physical slicing moves than there are special. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a few special slicing moves out there, so I could definitely see them loading up Samurott with a few of those as well, but I'm genuinely thinking we'll more or less see physical attacks. And because Hisuian Samurott does have 65 special defense, special attacks are going to be the way to go for damaging this thing. Luckily, water is weak to grass and electric, and there are a lot more special electric and grass type attacks to work, and there's plenty of means of debuffing special defense to soften it up to hit it incredibly hard. Now, what are some moves that I could potentially see coming off of Hisuian Samurott? Well, for starters, I could see Aqua Cutter. Aqua Cutter is a base 70 power slicing move that would naturally get a 50% boost from the Sharpness, and on top of that, Hisuian Samurott being Tera Water and naturally being a water type to begin with will give it double stab, which means Aqua Cutter will hurt incredibly hard. I said that a little bit weird, but anyways, Aqua Cutter is going to hurt. And did I mention too that it also has a boosted critical hit ratio? So there's that. It's got a guaranteed 12% chance to crit you. Now, if we don't see Aqua Cutter, what I could see as an alternative water type attack would be Razor Shell. Razor Shell is the Oshawott line's signature move from back in the day. Now, plenty of things have gotten it before, or rather after the debut of the move, but Razor Shell here is slightly stronger than Aqua Cutter with base 75 power. It's also a slicing move, so it too gets the Sharpness boost, and the big difference here is it is a 50% chance to drop the target's defense one stage after it's been used, so that could hurt and could definitely soften up our Pokemon, so we will have to watch out for Razor Shell or Aqua Cutter regardless. Now, Hisuian Samurott does have a signature move in the form of Ceaseless Edge. This is a base 65 dark type attack that can set a layer of spikes. Normally, entry hazards wouldn't be that big of a deal in raids because you're trying to live and, just not faint. But if you do get knocked out, well, now you're going to be coming back into the battle, which means you'll take damage from spikes if you are using a grounded Pokemon. So you'll have to be careful with the amount of spikes that go up, because the more layers of spikes, the more damage you take coming in, which could set you at a disadvantage once you faint and then have to come back into the battle. Now, another coverage option that we might see off of Hisuian Samurott is Sacred Sword. This is a base 90 power fighting type attack that bypasses stat boosts, which means the more we boost up our defense with stat boosts, it's not going to matter. Sacred Sword is going to cleave right through that, and if you didn't guess from the name, this is also a slicing move, so be careful. Now, Aerial Ace might be a nice alternative that they give Hisuian Samurott to deal with grass types, because not only can this not miss, you guessed it, slicing move. On top of that, it is base 60 power, so we might be able to live against Aerial Ace, which could be relatively nice, but a alternative to Aerial Ace could actually be Air Slash. Air Slash is a special flying type attack that is base 75 power with a 30% chance to make the target flinch, and this is also a slicing move on the special side, so if we're not careful, this could hurt as well. Hisuian Samurott being base 85 speed does mean it does have the ability to outspeed some slower Pokemon and potentially make them flinch, so you might want to err on the side of caution to just watch out for that Air Slash. Now, on the supportive side, I could definitely see a few moves being used by Samurott to add a little bit of a challenge and gimmick to the raid itself. For starters, I could see Swords Dance to increase its attack 2 stages. I could also see Rain Dance to boost the power of water type attacks by 50% to further increase the amount of damage this thing does with its stab option, thanks to the Tera Water. So that could be a thing. You might want to run maybe Sunny Day or Snowscape or Sandstorm just to bypass that. That would definitely help disrupt the Hisuian Samurott that way. We could potentially see Focus Energy to increase Samurott's critical hit ratio to stages. I don't think we'll necessarily see this though, because they don't like to repeat patterns in these 7-star raids, and this is how they built the other Samurott, the one that happened several months ago. So we might not have to worry about Focus Energy in that regard, but it is worth noting that it is a thing, and we will have to be careful because guaranteed critical hits will mean we'll have to build more on the defensive side. We'll probably have to invest more into our HP and our defense in tandem, as opposed to maybe, say, our special attack. Finally, I could see Encore potentially being a support move that they give Hisuian Samurott, because if you try to set up in front of Samurott, Samurott could just lock you into that setup move with Encore. So be careful on that one. Now let's talk about some Pokemon that I think could be potentially good to deal with Samurott. The first Pokemon here that I think is going to stand a good chance of dealing with Hisuian Samurott is going to be Bellibolt. Bellibolt put in phenomenal work against Terra Flying, Alolan Decidueye, and I think it's going to have another repeat performance dealing with Samurott. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use Acid Spray to soften up Hisuian Samurott's special defense and make it even squishier to do damage against. What we're going to do there as well is we're going to set up Reflect. Reflect halves the damage coming from physical attacks, and this is one of the few means of lowering the power of Sacred Sword if Hisuian Samurott is packing that. So we have Reflect to provide some valuable defensive support on the physical front for the party, especially if we're playing online, which can then allow our teammates to either set up or go for big damage dealing with Samurott. Next, we're finally going to go on the offensive front and pair Parabolic Charge up with Bellibolt's ability Electromorphosis and the Shell Bell item. So what we're going to do here is we're going to rely on the fact that Bellibolt is so slow and it's going to take damage from Hisuian Samurott. When Bellibolt is damaged having the Electromorphosis ability, it gains the Charge attribute, which means its next electric type attack that is used is going to double in power. Parabolic Charge, while only having a natural base power of 65, is going to double and jump up to 130 before stab is applied, and on top of that, it heals the user by 50% of the damage that is dealt, which means Bellibolt will quickly spiral out of control for Samurott to deal with. And then on top of that, we have the Shell Bell to give us back a little bit more HP by healing Bellibolt an eighth of the damage that it does with its attacks to begin with. Now, the last move here is up for a little bit of debate. I was thinking Discharge could be a solid alternative electric type option to deal with Samurott because it has a 30% chance to make Samurott get paralyzed, which is a really good condition. And if you're playing on offline, you might get the Bellibolt support partner, which means Discharge might not be as valuable because that Bellibolt will also be spamming Discharge. But a nice alternative could actually be Mud Slap. Bellibolt gets access to Mud Slap, and accuracy drops in raids is a huge tech to be able to take advantage of because the raid boss can potentially miss, therefore not doing as much damage. Now, this will backfire a little bit for Bellibolt because the Electromorphosis won't activate, but at the same time, if this thing is throwing out guaranteed critical hits, if it did get the focus energy, I'm willing to dodge a few hits for the sake of my Bellibolt surviving. So that's what I was thinking for this first Pokemon. Our second Pokemon here is Appletun. Appletun is a grass dragon, which means it is going to have a 4 times resistance to water type attacks, which is going to be huge for deterring Samurott from going for those types of attacks. Now, here's the one problem though. We're Grass Dragon, which means we are 4 times weak to ice. Now, we could technically run Appletun's hidden ability of Thick Fat to drop the power of ice-type attacks coming our way, and then just try to outlive Samurott until we can Terastallize, which is definitely a reasonable option to go. but we could also run Gluttony or Ripen, Appleton's other two default abilities, and take advantage of those with berries as our held item. Gluttony takes berries that normally would activate at the 1/4 of your max HP and activate them at the halfway mark, which means you could get a huge burst of HP back, and Appleton does get access to the move Recycle, which will give you back the berries that are already consumed. But the funny thing that I think could be really good here is Ripen. Ripen doubles the effects of berries when it eats them, which means we can pair this thing with, say, maybe a Yachi berry or a Koba berry, both of which are the berries that reduce super effective damage from ice type and flying type attacks. We could do that and stack that with Ripen. We could also run a Ganlan berry, which would raise our defense stat 1 stage. Ripen would double that to 2. Or we could even just go for a good old-fashioned citrus berry and then have it give us back even more HP when we hit the halfway point. So we could potentially do that instead for our item. Now, as far as the options go for Appletun, like Bellibolt, Appletun has a means of lowering Samurott's special defense. It also gains access to Reflect as well. So Appleton's signature move of Apple Acid is a much stronger version of Acid Spray, and it still lowers the special defense, which is going to be huge because Apple Acid and Acid Spray both, which I should have mentioned this with the Bellibolt, they still build up your Tera charge as well, which is going to be huge. And the nice thing here is Apple Acid is a grass type attack, which means it's naturally going to benefit from stab on Appletun. And once you go Tera Grass with Appletun, you're going to be doing huge amounts of damage with Apple Acid to begin with. And then you have Giga Drain to recover more HP by doing damage to Samurott. As I mentioned, you do have Recycle, so you can easily bring back your berry and go from there. And finally, you can provide more support for the party with Reflect. Overall, I think Appletun could be a really good option to deal with Samurott, and honestly, a combination of Bellibolt and Appletun might be really good, especially if you have Mud Slap on Bellibolt and then Apple Acid on Appletun. You could quickly lower Samurott's special defense and accuracy and go from there if you're playing online with another person. Now, let's talk about the last and final option, Lurantis. So I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Lurantis because this was actually how I dealt with Chestnut, and that was thanks to the combination of Leaf Storm and Contrary. Contrary inverts the stat boosts and stat drops that the target has. And this could be huge if Samurott has Razor Shell, because Razor Shell will now have a 50% chance of increasing our defense 1 stage if we do take a hit from it. Now, because we're grass type, we're probably not going to take Razor Shell very often if Samurott does have it because, you know, grass resists water, but it would be funny if the Samurott actually gives us a defense boost that way. So back on the main point though, the whole reason why we're going to use Lurantis is we're going to take advantage of the fact that Leaf Storm is now going to boost our special attack 2 stages while already being a raw base 130 special attack. That's going to be wonderful. Now, normally the 90 accuracy would be a little bit of a deterrent because you could potentially miss, but we're going to patch that up with our item, and that's either going to be the zoom lens or the wide lens. The zoom lens will raise the accuracy of the holder's moves by 20% so long as they move after the target. Now, this could be a little bit problematic if we do paralyze the Samurott and it does get slower, but if Samurott isn't paralyzed, then we're likely going after them because Lurantis is super slow, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. But if we are a little bit concerned, we could go with the wide lens instead, and it's a 10% accuracy modifier, which means that 90 accuracy is now going up to 99, which means you have a 1% chance of missing. I like those odds. I really do, and I hope you do as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to spam that Leaf Storm, do it once or twice to go up to +2 or +4, and then we're going to switch gears to Giga Drain because Leaf Storm does not have the most PP. It has a maximum of 8, so if Samurott wipes our stats, well, now we're back to square one, and we have very little usage of Leaf Storm left, so we have the Giga Drain as a main alternative for doing damage, and plus Giga Drain is also going to rapidly heal us up. And because we do have the special attack boosts from Leaf Storm, Giga Drain is going to hit incredibly hard despite the significant gap in power level between Giga Drain and Leaf Storm. Now, a nice thing that I was thinking about for Lurantis 2 is it does get access to Defog as an egg move, which does clear entry hazards that are set up on the field. So if Samurott does go for Ceaseless Edge and sets up spikes, we could remove the spikes that way with Defog. And then finally, to round out the set, we have Pollen Puff. This is going to be more supportive than it is going to be offensive because we can use Pollen Puff to heal up our partners, and this could be huge if we are playing online with a group of friends. If we need to, we could Pollen Puff one of our partners and then heal them up, and then they're back in the game, and we don't have to necessarily rely on going for heal cheers and having the random amounts of RNG heal us back up. So that's what I was mainly thinking for Lurantis. We go Leaf Storm, power up, Giga Drain, heal, Defog, clear the field, and then Pollen Puff if needed in an online group. Anyways, guys, that's what I was thinking for the options to deal with Hisuian Samurott. Let me know what you're planning on using yourselves down in the comments below, and I will see you there.